Well, the U.S. presidential circus, I mean, election continues to entertain. It has had twists and turns like no others. And someone who's in the middle of living it right now is Warren Kinsella, Toronto Sun columnist down in Maine. Warren, what's that behind you? It seems like you're supporting a candidate here. You want Tim Walz to be president?
Yeah, I want Jim Walz to be president. No, full disclosure, I am not a member of any political party in Canada, but when I'm periodically stateside, I help out the Democrats just to keep my muscles in shape. And so my partner and I, we were out knocking on doors. We went to a Democratic Party rally here in Kennebunkport on Saturday night, and all the Democrats, they're in a pretty good mood. But those
Well,
signs behind me, those are collector items. Like they couldn't print any signs because she only became the presidential candidate last week. So they're way behind the eight ball. You see Trump signs everywhere, but you don't see many of these because they couldn't print them up until she became the official candidate.
okay, so look, I know you've long campaigned for Democratic candidates, but aren't you kind of wasting your time in Maine? Most of the voters, Maine's kind of funny. It's not a winner take all state. So Trump is still expected to take, I think, is it one electoral college vote out of Maine or one district or something like that? But most of the votes are going Democrat. Shouldn't you be out there in a battleground state campaigning for Harris and Walz if you want them to win?
Yeah, but Pennsylvania doesn't have waterfront. So like, sorry, Pennsylvania.
They got the Jersey Shore.
No,
Come on,
but
you
as
could go to the
some
Jersey Shore.
That's true. Yeah, but don't want to. Like, where goes Maine? We researched this last night. Where goes Maine, so goes the country. Maine is a weird state in lots of ways, but it's a lot like the United States. It's divided. Like inside the state, in the rural part of the state, it is hardcore red. It is Donald Trump territory. Along the coast, where all the pointy-headed elites
Like
live
you.
and where I'm hanging, like me, where I'm hanging out at the moment, it is blue. And if you look at a map of the United States, that's what it's like. So the fight, as you always point out, it doesn't matter what the national polls say in the United States. What matters is in those 6 or 7 states that go back and forth that are kind of sort of in the middle, they're the ones that matter. And it still shows a really tight race. Donald Trump can still win this thing.
So I'm looking at 270towin.com right now, one of the poll aggregators. They tend to all have similar numbers, whether you go to Real Clear Politics, 270 or 538. You can look at the national numbers. And right now, nationally, the average of the last 8 polls puts Harris up 2.3%. Now, you go back to 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 2%, and Donald Trump
Bingo.
won
Bingo.
on the electoral college. So Arizona, it's a dead tie. 47%, 47%. I'll be going to Arizona to check that out in October. Michigan, 48% for Harris, 47% for Trump. Georgia, 48% each. Nevada, 48, 47 in favor of Harris. North Carolina, Trump barely, like less than a percentage point. Wisconsin, that's a big lead at 3% for Harris. But Pennsylvania, which is perhaps the big prize, it's 47 for Harris, 46 for Trump. This is tight. And
It's tight.
you hear some of the commentary, and it's like, oh well, Harris has a huge swell of support compared to Joe Biden. She does, and we've talked about that before. The enthusiasm gap, like nobody was enthusiastic other than you for Joe Biden towards the end, because they're like, oh, he's lost it. I can't vote for him. Harris has brought that back, but this is a street fight, isn't it?
It is a street fight. It's not won yet. And we saw it at this rally on Saturday night. People were talking about how they were happy to be a Democrat again and they love Joe, but, they're delighted she's there. But she's not done it yet because the numbers you just went through, I encourage everybody to look back 8 years because we've seen this movie before. Those were the numbers that Hillary had too. Hillary was consistently ahead nationally 2 or 3 points for many months, just like Harris is right now. But where it mattered in those swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and now Georgia and Arizona are somewhat in that mix as well. It's very, very tight. And so it's, get out the vote. And the thing that we're finding down here, so I was knocking on doors in this little town called Biddeford, and I was running into Trump voters. And the thing about them, Brian, that is fascinating is they've factored in the crazy, right? So when they hear about him doing something offensive at Arlington National Cemetery, as apparently some member of his team did this week, they know what to expect. They know that's part of the offering that Trump has. They don't care about that. What they want to hear about is the issues, and that is Kamala Harris's vulnerability. Is even Democrats, when you talk to them, they're not sure where she stands on some key issues. She needs to get to that in the next 70 days.
Well, we once heard that an election is no time to talk about issues, and that was pilloried when Kim Campbell said it. But there's a lot of politicians that would prefer not to, and it's worked for her so far. But let's talk about what Trump's been doing. He got RFK on his side in a state like New Hampshire or Maine. He was polling. If you go back to when Biden was still in the race, he was polling at times as high as 10%.
10 points. 10
Yeah.
points. Yep.
After Biden got out, Harris became the candidate. It went down to 6 to 8%. So there were obvious, like I've said from the beginning, RFK was pulling from Democrats, he was pulling from Republicans, and from disaffected people that just, I don't like either party. I don't like big pharma, and all those things. But let's say he's got 6 points. If even half of them go over to Trump in these swing states, that's a big move. He's pulled over Tulsi Gabbard, who is one of the most bizarre people to ever run for the Democratic nomination, in my view, but she has a cult following. So, people can dismiss that he's got RFK on side. And I've seen people say, oh, he's only got 2 people voting for him and they're all crazy. Well, no, in Michigan, he was polling at 6%. Tulsi Gabbard has a cult following. You can have 200 Republican former staffers write a letter denouncing Trump. It's not going to move the needle, but you get people who are, like these folks, like RFK and Gabbard, showing up with their cult followings. That can move the needle. And if you only need 1 or 2 points, well, bringing in 3 can make a big difference.
And it was a brilliant strategy the Trump team did. I'm going to distinguish that from their candidate in a minute. But, they knew that coming out of the convention, coming out of the DNC in Chicago, the Democrats were going to experience a lift. Everybody gets a lift out of their convention down here. It's tons of free TV time and people singing your praises, and it works. And so the Democrats had a great convention.
Both parties had very well produced conventions.
That's right.
You can hate them, either team, but they produced a good show, both of them.
And the RNC got more of a lift out of their convention than Donald Trump did out of the assassination attempt, which is amazing when you think of it. So the DNC, the Republicans knew that DNC was going to move up. So what did? They rolled out the Kennedy thing, and that name still has appeal down here to a lot of Democrats. And they rolled out Tulsi Gabbard, which assists them with women, which is a key vulnerability of Trump. However, the big problem remains the candidate. Now you've got Republican strategists on and off the record down here complaining now daily that they actually have a winning strategy, talking about the economy, talking about pocketbook issues, actually doing what Pierre Poilievre has done so successfully. But they can't get their candidate disciplined enough to do that. He goes off on these crazy tangents, and it just takes them off message. That is Harris's greatest strength.
I saw Nikki Haley maybe a week, 10 days ago, doing an interview saying, she fully backs Donald Trump now after campaigning against him, but that often happens, right, within parties. And she said, this guy needs to just start talking about the economy and talking about her record. One of the things Harris has been very good at is convincing some people that she's the candidate of change when she's part of the current administration. So she's now almost campaigning against her own track record, against her party's track record. It's worked for her. So
It's
look, if it's going to
amazing,
work,
isn't it?
keep
Yeah,
doing it. But you're right. Trump is not focusing on the issues that will drive voters, and that will be the economy, inflation, immigration to a degree is always a big issue in the States. And
huge.
so, even Democrats don't trust Harris. Biden's borders are on the immigration front.
And that is a key vulnerability. The Republicans just announced, or word got out, that 70% of their buy in those swing states that you talked about a couple of minutes ago, 75% is going to be spots about immigration. So I think the Trump team is smarter than their candidate. They know that that is a key vulnerability that she's got. At the end of the day, Democrats get tongue-tied on immigration. They can't talk about it, even though their own base wants them to talk about it. So that buy that the Republicans have got coming, that's going to leave a mark with Kamala Harris.
I'm wondering what the next crazy twist is going to be. We had the assassination attempt, we had Biden's debate performance, we had Biden leave, the palace coup, then the RFK thing. And I was texting with you the other day and I said, well, next on the US presidential campaign, Biden will claim that he's back in and that was his evil twin brother. I mean, it's kind of like a soap opera right now. So, you really do have to pay attention over the next couple of months because it's going to be tight. It's going to be a street fight and something else crazy is going to happen.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll have some Republican signs behind me next time we talk.
I don't think so. Unless you've put graffiti all over them, I don't expect that to happen. But keep us up to date on what's going on down in Maine. Enjoy your time in Kennebunk. Say hi to the Bush clan for me if you see them. The Kennedys don't vacation there, do they?
They do not. They do not. But there are a lot of Democrats around here. So the
I
Republicans.
saw Bobby was in Maine. I figured you might join up with them for some lobster, some dead bear, and some brainworm, maybe.
Yeah, that
Stay safe, Warren.
brainworm.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks, man.
All right. Let us know what you think about the U.S. presidential race. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.